Oh, man.
Made it
Dude.
just
We're good?
in time. Hello.
Yeah.
Welcome to episode 3 of Talk Heathen, December 3rd. Sorry, out of breath from all the,
totally
running that we
believable.
definitely just did.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
You changed your shirt like super quick.
Well, no, actually, this shirt is still green. It's the green screen is making it.
It is our advanced technology?
Yes.
I love it. I love that.
And you were able to put on that button-up shirt, like, from the run from the door to
Super
here.
quick. Super quick.
Yeah.
All
It is
right.
actually the same shirt. Of course, because that,
Continuity.
It's a little foggy in Austin today.
Yeah.
No.
So,
it's a good intro.
yeah, that was. I can't wait to see what people have to say about it for sure.
Yeah.
Before we really get into any real news or get going, we actually want to talk about something kind of serious.
Yeah. Well.
So there has been a tragedy that has affected a lot of people that we care about, and even if it was someone that we didn't know personally, the information that we have is that there has been a tragedy that has left 3 girls without parents. They need our help. We are a community, right?
Yeah.
And when it comes to community, this is the part where we rally around. This is the part that we show our support. And it doesn't have to be money. If you don't have money, that's fine.
Yeah.
Share.
I feel like there's a GoFundMe that has more information about.
Can we get that the graphic up for that, actually?
Tragedy that occurred. Yeah. Do we have a? Oh, okay.
We do.
Yeah.
We do. So if you go to gofundme.com/helpthesmithgirls, we're also going to be popping that up on our Facebook page. Every little bit helps. Don't think that it doesn't. And let's get this in there. I personally think $50,000 to try and help go towards college education.
For three people.
Yeah, that's not a thing.
No.
But if we can pool in together, it's important.
That's the sort of. There's a lot of people that I know that are a part of the movement that not like they didn't have religion or God, but it was it's whatever that via a thing that they cared about, and like it's always seeing the harm that can be caused.
Yeah.
Seeing harm to people that's caused by a religion makes you join the atheist movement and contribute. And then just seeing any harm in the movement, I think, it's really a time for. I mean, you know me in community.
I
can't get enough of it.
With this community, there are pieces that other people are going to talk about. We care about the people who are here, the people we can help, and we need to focus
everyone
on
affected by this tragedy.
Yeah, the people that are still around, and specifically these kids. So if you can, donate. If you can't, like and subscribe or share, retweet, get it out, get it to as many people as possible.
Yeah,
that is definitely how you can help.
Yeah.
Anything else on that? That's just.
Yeah, I feel like I'm not close enough to the situation to try and talk about this in any more detail. I don't grieve well or.
No, and when it comes to grief and mourning.
Not that anyone grieves well.
Well, but we actually had tried to set up a call with with some people who professionally deal with grief counseling. We weren't able to get anyone today, and
we'll probably get them next week, though.
Yeah, we both feel pretty unqualified to be able to talk about that in detail. So we're going to leave that for when we can have that conversation. But I think we can safely say that there are many parts to grief. It's okay. You're not alone. And
we know it sucks.
yeah, and nobody fits this cookie cutter mold when it comes to grief. It can take way longer for some people than others, and that's okay. That's not something that you should perseverate about, or something that you should be an island over. This is the part where we come together, and we've seen it happen before, and we really want to see it happen today.
And I always, the show is sponsored by the ACA, and we're located in Austin, right? And it's the Atheist Community of Austin. And everyone knows that the atheist experience is a bunch of atheists, and everyone knows that the ACA is a bunch of atheists. I don't know why I'm saying that so dismissively, but
Because it gets brought up dismissively.
well,
Yeah.
but the C in the center of that name is the center of the organization as well.
Yeah. The community part.
We aren't a we without a community. And
So I know it's a hard transition, but we do want
Yeah.
to get into some other things. This week has been big.
yeah.
Anything else big in your week? I know it's a really rough transition, but we got.
Well, it is. Not a whole lot happened in my week, which actually is probably better because I don't know how I could change topics that easily. But yeah, not a whole lot. Getting ready for this.
Yeah. Well, I actually have a whole bunch of really cool stuff to report.
Cool, good, because I don't know what to say.
Well, the first is that we have apparently several graphic designers who are fans of the show.
That's true.
That wanted to submit graphic design ideas. And so we've been getting them, and that's amazing. If anybody else wants to send them in, we're going to set the date at the end of December. And at the end of December, we'll take a look. Maybe we'll put up a poll, something like that, and decide
Yeah.
next year.
Or we could be dictatorial and just choose for
We could,
ourselves.
kind of as our-
The people will accept our decision. We also got our first fan art. I feel like we need to do that. There it is. Yeah, it's that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Mm-hmm.
We got fan art. I love that. For some reason, this made me more excited than most other things.
Yeah, it came out of like nowhere, right? Like we've been watching the we're getting more viewers. There it is. We're getting more viewers. We're getting more callers. We're getting more, subscribers. And like watching those numbers go up is exciting. And like, oh, cool. We're actually we're doing something right. And then there's this, and I was like, I did not have any means of preparing for fans to draw me.
Right.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it was right in time for me to get a haircut. So, but still, I think that
all right.
there it is. I know which shoulder it's over.
Yeah, this is kind of funky.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's cool. There's one that he made that's animated.
I know, I saw
That's super.
Actually, before we continue with the rest of the news, we do still have open lines. We have a couple people
Yeah.
waiting, but if you do have a topic you want to call about, if you have a question that you want us to talk about on air, now's the time to call in. The number is, what is it, Jamie? I never remember.
512-68. Yeah, it's always right there. 512-686-0279.
Yeah. Call.
You can. Yeah. There's a. If you want insight into the way that I remember and think about numbers, 2 + 7 is 9, and 0 + 9 is 9.
Wow. All right. That's very.
Also,
right, man.
anything that's 686 is the same forwards and backwards.
All right. Other things. I want to give a shout out to Aaron from the Waiting for Wrath podcast. When it came to getting our show out as a podcast, I just couldn't do it. I was so over my head, and I reached out on.
Our fans were asking for, are you going to release an audio only version?
Yes. So
I can't stream YouTube everywhere.
Aaron,
It's going to kill my phone. Yeah.
Aaron from the Waiting for Wrath podcast is working with us on the back end of our website so that we can get that out.
And he doesn't have to wait for Wrath anymore. Oh wait, no, that's bad.
No, he's been really, really awesome. It was really awesome to meet him. If you haven't checked out their podcast, you should check it out.
It's a good one.
Let's see. Anything else? Yes. Before we set up anything for fans to be able to discuss, really a lot of our fans have been moving to the Atheist Experience official discussion group, and I know that has been a burden on the mods. We just want to say thank you. For everybody that runs groups, there are several different groups of people who follow the Atheist Experience, and we know that this has kind of impacted everybody's schedule, and we really appreciate the extra time that everybody's putting into it. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
That, and there's fans that are sort of setting up groups with their friends where they talk about our show.
Yeah.
It's cool. You dropped into one of those.
I did.
Yeah.
It kind of blew their minds, too. They're just like, oh my gosh, it's that guy. I was like, yes.
It blew their minds because I'm so famous. I'm Eric. Yeah.
Dude, I just popped in. I was like, hey, you guys. And they're like, who's this? I was like, this is Eric from the show you're talking about. I was like, it made me happy.
Yeah.
It made me happy.
Well, yeah, I need the link.
I'll send you the link, and they'll probably post it down in the YouTube. Anything else? Am I forgetting before we take calls?
No.
All right.
All right. That was a very decisive no. No, you are not forgetting anything.
Let's see.
Let's take the one at the top.
Let's take the one at the top.
1, 2, 3, go.
Phillip, you are on the air with Eric and Jamie. How are you doing today?
Just fine. How are you guys doing?
We're doing
marvelous.
Right. Yeah. What do you want to talk about? Oh, go ahead.
Well, I'm also the guy that sent you the cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's rigged for animation. I don't know if you read that part.
We did. We did.
Yeah.
It's animated to flip off the camera.
Oh, yeah. You did see the.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. Be glad if you once you settle your background, I'll be glad to do you an intro.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we kind
You
of.
guys come sliding in from each side with pens and pads flying everywhere, and they all settle, something like that.
I know that right
But,
now we're super in love with the intro that we went out and filmed, but I know if given time,
we have a personal attachment to it. Yeah, I don't have a problem with us every now and then or every other show having like a
changing it up.
changing a background, adding a thing.
Yeah, but we
In
we're,
part
we're-
because I think it's cool that there's a community of people that are creating art that's
Agreed.
related to me talking about stuff.
us talking about stuff.
Not
but
self-absorbed at all.
What did you want to talk to us about today?
Well, you could limit it to just after the show and put it on put it in front of your YouTube, whatever you wanted to do with it, you know.
Sure.
Or our Facebook
also-
page, Talk Heathen.
I spoke to Jamie last week on the Atheist Experience. He was called screaming,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm that Phillip too.
You are all the Phillips.
I'd like to tell you quickly why I became an atheist.
Okay.
Yeah.
And after 40 years, I call it 40 years in the wilderness now, but after 40 years, I was backing out of a parking space at church, heading to the end of the parking lot, small church, and I know the difference between a voice and an epiphany, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it just came to me, but it came to me in this form, which was a bit odd. And it said, if I am the only way, the only truth, and the only life, why do you even consider the books or the writings beyond what I gave you? Did I not give you enough to secure salvation? Well, I think any Christian would say he did. So I went from that point. I never went back to church. I took a Bible. I cut away the books from Acts of Revelation and separated the Old Testament as reference and studied what Christianity would be like if they followed only Jesus, which makes perfect sense to me. But it wouldn't survive because a Christian nation couldn't exist without an army to defend it, and Jesus wouldn't have anything like that I could see. They'd have no monetary system. And anyway, that just began the deconstruction.
Yeah.
And I found out ways to go from within and show a believer, well, this is something else you believe and you read, like they read other books like Fox's Book of Martyrs, the homilies, which is the stories. I don't know if you're familiar with those or not. And, you can find things in there to deconstruct it completely. I mean, it took me 7 years, never wanting to give up that faith, never wanting to believe any different because it started when I was 5 years old. And
Yeah,
I think
indoctrination, they really start you off young and don't let go of you
and
ever.
who are you going to trust? Who are you going to trust but the ones that your parents? And, they were taken in too. I don't blame them.
I actually want to
Generations of victimization.
get in on the... I'm sorry, we just got a note. I actually want to get in on the voice that you heard, because that's really interesting to me. It's often said, you can come to the right conclusion for the wrong reasons, right?
Right. It was as if Jesus was telling me that, and I know it was my own voice, it was my own conscience. Yeah, consciousness. I was not in any way considering it a voice. That's why I said I know the difference between a voice and an epiphany.
Absolutely.
An epiphany is just a sudden realization of the truth, and that's what it was to me. And it tore it all down and ended with, I love you, but if you don't love me back, I have to torture you forever. And I'm thinking, I can't buy into that anymore. No. That's just crazy. How is that love?
Yeah.
And how is that unconditional love like they say he's got? That's a condition.
It is. There's a joke that goes that a missionary is talking to an Eskimo, and the Eskimo says, "Oh, well, so now that I know about Jesus, if I don't follow these rules, then I go to hell." Yeah, but if you hadn't come over here and told me about this, I would have gotten into heaven no matter what. Oh, yeah. Why the fuck did you tell me?
Yeah, that one got me too when I first heard that. Yeah, that was, and then I think more recently I started out, and I was raised to believe Madeline Murray O'Hare was the devil, and you heard that in church all the time. I think she was gruff, and I think she was sarcastic, and I think she might have been an embezzler for all I know. But that doesn't mean anything else. That doesn't mean there's a God,
Yeah.
And but my first encounter with an atheist channel on YouTube was an aggressive atheist, and I mean horribly aggressive, and that turned me off completely. The next one was nearly as aggressive, and then I just gave up on looking at atheist YouTube videos until I ran across the Atheist Experience, and that was after several months of gap, and I didn't stop my atheism, but it kind of held up on me probably coming out. Which, it took 2 years after that 7 to come out. It's been 9 years since this all started. And I just came out a few weeks ago.
Hey, congratulations.
I didn't really have any family left to worry about. They've all passed on. I'm only 54, and they were croaking early, And I'm told I'm dying, but I don't care. I'm enjoying while I'm here,
That's the best we can do, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's... welcome to the side. Glad you're able to come out and share that story, man.
Welcome to freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is very freeing, and I don't think they understand that. How can it be free? They say they're free at last because of God. No, you just stepped into a voluntary slave trade.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah. And the piece of it that I think we are highlighting the most is the community aspect of it, because a lot of people say, oh, well, churches have this community aspect that help others, and we're showing that doesn't need to be taken over by religious people. I mean, we should and are building community. And,
well, the Christians don't seem to realize that creating a theocracy in this country will do the same thing to us as it did to Rome and it did to Britain. It all eventually falls apart.
Yeah.
Everybody just splits.
It's sort of the United Kingdom doesn't have that kind of theocracy because they had multiple civil wars, not just between the Parliament and the King, but because Protestants and Catholics realized that they believed different things, and then they decided that they're going to kill each other.
I will say that Europe took back the power of the king that Rome did not seem to want to do. Of course, he took it back for his own purposes, but as long as he took it back to some degree. Yeah, I mean, I would love to live in a world that sounds like what Jesus would create by following him. Other than the threats, just care for one another. Not the silly stuff like don't care for anything. That's just silly.
Like, not
the
that
Carrington
make
one.
no provision for tomorrow. I mean, really,
Yeah.
that I don't think attributing that specifically to Jesus is particularly.
Well, no, I think that's Peter, actually.
I feel well, yeah, but also, most of it most of it's attributed to Paul if you include the pseudonymous gospel
I've always
writings.
suspected Paul.
Yeah.
I think even if they, I don't know, do they prove Paul exists or
I
existed?
think that Paul, I don't know. I don't know the history. I wouldn't be, again,
That would be a
it's
good
sort of,
guess
it
to
was
have.
there an apocalyptic rabbi running around in the first century, not really that extraordinary a claim. Could he turn water
I don't
into
know,
wine
but-
and heal the deaf and the blind?
I think it's in Matthew, though, but I no longer fear a zombie apocalypse. It's already been come and gone, way
Yeah.
back.
That's
Wasn't
one of my
much of an
favorite
apocalypse. Yeah.
I know, it was kind of, nobody else seemed to care about it enough to write anything down.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I should let you guys go.
Fine.
Yeah.
We can discuss through Facebook if you want any kind of an animation, like I say.
Oh, yeah.
I'm,
Or you can email us
Mail
at talkheathen.com.
You got it.
One of these days we're going to say it at the same time.
No worries.
And we're going to be like, we are Legion.
We got the art in the background again. All right, Phillip, you take care, brother, and we'll hear from you soon, man. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
thank you for the fan art.
Oh, no problem.
Mhm.
You guys take care.
You
Hey,
too.
Thanks, you too.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye. Before we move on to the next caller, I didn't get to say we have a live studio audience.
Yeah. Hey, guys.
We're so excited about this.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
If you are in Austin and you want to come see us live, we are every Sunday from 11 to noon local time, and
then-
feel free to drop by the Free Thought Library and come and see us.
And then after lunch, I think most Sundays generally, or, something about half of Sundays, where you can stop in while we do Vern's boot camp, which is kind of like a call training, host practice for the Atheist Experience, but it doesn't get broadcast. So you don't get to see it necessarily unless you're here or you're in one of our,
Private groups, but we'll go.
that's still developing.
Yeah.
The 1100 Club's still a thing, guys. It just takes a lot of time.
Sorry, it's not specifically Talk Heathen, but
It
if
is
you're into it, you wanna watch it.
ACA-sponsored
Yeah.
content.
Okay, so who do you want to get to next?
Why don't we do Damon?
All right, what a pleasantly demonic name. Mm-hmm. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, Damon, you're on the air with Eric and Jamie.
Hello, how are you doing today?
Marvelous.
We're doing good, man.
So, before I get to my question, do you mind if I give a little background to it?
No, never. Not in 10,000 years.
Don't listen to him. You're good, brother. This is the spot for it.
Yeah, sorry.
Right. Thank you.
Hopefully my sarcasm reads.
So, I was doing a little research because I began to learn that I have around about 3 or 4 acquaintances that believe in the flat Earth theory. And
which one?
it was driving me crazy, and something in my head popped up, and I was like, even a creationist, can't be this ridiculous. So
That's that's an extraordinary claim, my friend.
right. So I mean, with that in mind, I decided to reach out to a creationist just to vent, to see if I can come with an agreement with one once in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I emailed Kent Hovind.
Oh,
Are you-
yeah.
how'd it go?
Yeah.
I sent him the link, and I was like, please give me your opinion about this, because I found it interesting, because he's very notorious for being ridiculous.
Yeah, and plus
he
is a
pushes up
creationist.
the young Earth creation. Yeah. What did he have to say?
Yes. Well, he emailed me back. He said, the flat Earth people drive me crazy. What a dumb idea. The only thing dumber is that to believe nobody created it at all. And it kind of got my blood boiling a little bit. You know what I mean? Like,
irony.
He invited me to call him. He invited me to call him to discuss everything, but I really don't want to have a screaming match, and I feel like you guys are the best people to ask, you know, like how do I not get drowned in my own fury while speaking to this guy? You know what I mean? Like, because I feel like I have to at least discuss this with him, if that makes sense.
That part makes perfect sense to me. I also have trouble trying to figure out the correct approach, particularly with people close to me, and can't not feel that I have to.
Right.
Yeah.
So I feel your pain.
Yeah. So generically, yeah, if it's somebody that you really care about and you don't want to bridge the topic, but if you just kind of want to dive into it, man, I don't know. If you want to go the nicer route, there's definitely the Manual for Creating Atheists, Anthony Magnabosco kind of street epistemology route, you know, see kind of what makes them tick, how they got to that.
Yeah.
And then if you don't want to do that, you could just be like, hey, read any of the things. Get on an airplane. Actually, did you see the article? Did you see the article about the flat earther that's trying to launch himself?
Oh, yeah, the Rocket Man.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's sort of, he wanted to launch a rocket. This is my favorite bit. But the launch was delayed because the county didn't give him the correct permits to launch from there. And then also, when he was going to leave, the rocket launcher slash U-Haul Humvee situation broke down in the driveway.
Which is absolutely beautiful.
Which makes me not trust his rocket science quite as much.
Well, he's a limo driver that says that he's a rocket scientist, and he's going to prove that the Earth is flat by launching himself 5,000 feet into the air. Because
Take
he could
that,
not
NASA.
climb a mountain, which can, you know, get up to 14, whatever many feet.
Oh, but mountains don't exist.
Oh my God.
I'm not a flat earther.
thing.
I'm a smooth earther. No mountains.
You know, another thing is, like, I was reading, and they actually believe that Antarctica is an ice wall surrounding the perimeter of the Earth.
They may be big fans of Game of Thrones. Just saying.
Right. That's exactly what my boss was saying, actually. Oh, man.
It's definitely an interesting kind of rabbit hole to go down when you see this kind of stuff.
What's interesting is when they start disagreeing. That's always where I get fascinated by the, like, conspiracy theory encompassed beliefs. It's the sort of, okay, well, what's on the other side of the ice wall? And some people believe that's the edge of a disk. And some people believe, no, it just goes on for infinity from there.
Well, and the disk
and it's
is
sort of, why is gravity a thing? It's like, oh, because the disk is moving upwards.
Yep.
Or,
And it's-
no, just because gravity, duh.
Well, and the disc is being held up by 4 elephants that are in turn on the back of the great Atuin, the turtle that flies through space.
Discworld series.
Oh, so good.
Neil Gaiman's The Discworld series. It's phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
It'll make you
my
think
God,
twice
I
about
can't
saying the name of the number that's 7 plus 1. That's
So Damon, here's what I would absolutely love. I would love, if you want to talk to these people, find what works for you, and then call us. I want to know. I want to know what happens. I want to know like the juicy details, because that's definitely not something that's in my wheelhouse that I've been able to talk to somebody about. I've never been able to have that personal connection to somebody who thinks the Earth is flat. So,
yeah.
it's a
Right.
novel.
And not only that, it's a subject no one wants to really touch because it's so goddamn ridiculous.
Well, no, it's
You
because
know.
we're all part of the conspiracy. Didn't you get the memo?
Yeah, you're not on the payroll?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
yeah,
You
that's
always
right.
say that.
Yeah, dude, just call George Soros, man. He'll put you right on the payroll.
There's
you
a
know?
hotline. I'd like to be part of the conspiracy. 1-800 yes conspiracy for me.
Oh my gosh.
All right, brother.
If nothing
Alright,
else
you take
helps
it
you
easy,
keep a
guys.
level head, just remember you can always call us, report back, and vent a little bit.
Absolutely.
We're here for you.
All right, thank you so much. I will definitely keep that in mind.
Awesome. Thank you, man. Take care. We'll talk to you next time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, no problem.
All right.
I feel like we took that call like professional.
Right? I know. We did good. Do you want to?
Episode
Do you
3.
wanna
Let's
do
see.
the thing? Do you want to hit at the thing? I kind of want to do the thing.
Yeah, dude.
Okay.
Brace yourself.
Hamish, you are live with Eric and Jamie.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. I discovered this show from the call screeners of the Atheist Experience.
Yes.
Maybe it's new.
Should we get?
They recommended I call in.
Mm.
I am deeply disturbed, in a sense, by the propagation of the atheist movement. I think that atheists have no basis for morals.
Mm.
Okay.
Have you been a fan of? I know that you've called in a few times to the Atheist Experience and have seen it a few times. Have you seen any of the numerous times that this question has been addressed by the host? We're happy to address it again.
Don't ruin this for me.
I'm not going to. I'm just wondering where the starting point is.
Well, I find it curious how their hosts always hang up whenever the callers destroy them.
Really? Well, let's have that
I have watched a whole lot of the Atheist Experience. I think I may have missed those episodes.
Well, you're biased, of course.
Of course.
Of course. Of course.
So from whence do the atheists derive their morals?
Same place you do, right?
God.
So
Nope.
there are so many different parts to it.
So to be clear, it's important to believe and serve God because that is what is right and best for humanity and humans to do, right? Like that's a good thing for humans to do. That's what's right for our souls is a statement that you would agree with in part, at least.
We must serve God because it is His will.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it is bad and sinful for us not to, and good and virtuous for us to, presumably.
Absolutely.
Right.
Indeed.
So, a moral system structured without the existence of a God is structured that way, but without the God part. So instead of sin and virtue being determined by divine command or dictate, or as Matt Slick attempts to apologetic his way around it, without getting all of the what values do we hold being obedience, generally human flourishing and human well-being, a focus on what is best for humanity is the major difference between a moral system based on divine dictate and a moral system that focuses directly, without the middleman of a belief in God, on humanity. If that makes sense, or if I need to elaborate on detail.
I feel as though you are simply regurgitating atheist babble, because what would you consider to be a sin?
I wouldn't generally. I would. Well, the word brings with it a lot of baggage that.
So you have no morals then? You don't believe in sin? You don't believe in right and wrong?
No. You
don't? You admit it?
Well,
no, I don't. So the problem that we're having here is a difference in language and not in concept. What you're describing as sin, presumably you mean things that are wrong.
Things that are wrong and offensive to the law.
Having morality doesn't depend on the use of the word sin. If that helps clear up that one sort of miscommunication.
I mean, if we take it apart, right? If you were to weigh them out, I mean, in the Bible you have murder being a sin, right? But at the same time, the sin of Onan is to spill one's seed without it being used for recreation, right? Masturbation or using
procreation. You mean?
Thank you. Yeah, that one.
They also oppose spilling of seed for recreation.
Yes. So would you say those things are equivalent, right? Murdering somebody and masturbating?
I believe you are taking that out of context shamefully.
Well, teach me.
What is the
As
correct
in the
context for
Bible.
that so that we can not be incorrect twice?
Well, I don't have my Bible with me at present, but off by heart, I seem to recall that Onan, was it? He was supposed to bear his brother's child.
By
He
sleeping with
refused.
his brother's wife.
Well, yes, but his brother had died.
Yeah, that was the cultural practice at the time.
So it
Right,
was
so
sinful for
it-
him not to do this.
Well, I think that we could agree that in the structure of morality as understood by modern Christianity of the story of the Bible, what made it sinful was that it wasn't what God wanted.
Well, indeed.
Yeah. So I don't see, I will obey whatever commands I'm given as a real moral system.
So my foundation is God. Your foundation is what humans want.
No, what is best for human flourishing, generally.
Define flourishing.
Well, let's. Okay, so I think there are two parts to it, right? There's the cultural part of ethics and morality, and then there's the part that has evolved with us, right? We can point towards things that are in the brain, right? Have you read about what are the neurons in the brain that
Mirror
sympathetic?
neurons?
Mirror neurons. Have you checked that out at all, Hamish?
They're involved in empathy.
Yeah. Do you know how?
They cause you to experience what others experience to a rough extent.
So if you were to wonder, why would we have mirror neurons? The answer would be that if you take a look at any social species, looking out for each other is also important to looking out to yourself, right? You have this tribe, and you need to take care and grow that tribe. So that is an inbuilt piece of morality that we can point to, right? The rest is the way you structure your culture.
Social norms form around what is generally best, which is why every society that I'm aware of in every part of the world that I've looked into societies existing in has rules that ban murdering people generally, because
I have read that these neurons promote racism amongst other things.
I have no idea where you would have read that at all. But I haven't seen them marching in any parades for racism or what have you.
These neurons they fire more strongly when you see someone who is more like yourself.
Oh.
Yeah, so when people have the idea that there's a difference between me and someone else based on a social construct that we now refer to as race, yes, that affects the way that people see the world, which is why we should oppose an idea that is based solely on social norms. So a problem that we created for ourselves as humans, which we now refer to as racism. The idea that someone that doesn't look enough like me is therefore different, or a different kind of person, or a different breed, or a different race, has caused a lot of separation in the world, right? In the same way that saying, that other person, they're not like me, they have a different religion, has caused a lot of pain and suffering in the world.
Essentially, tribalism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tribalism comes from, in part, these neurons. Because they make you prefer your own tribe. They make you prefer one similar to yourself.
So no, mirror neurons would be the thing that would conflict with arbitrary divisions between human beings. They fire even when social norms dictate, no, that other person isn't like you. No, that's a Protestant and you're a Catholic. They should die.
Well, I have read that they fire less when the person is a different skin color, for instance.
I've actually
because the person whose neurons are firing believes that other person with a different skin color is different.
Perhaps you are mixing up cause and effect.
I believe that you are doing the same as well. So it's very much like saying, oh, empathy causes racism because someone feels less empathy for a person of a different race. Therefore, empathy causes racism. And I'm saying, no, racism gets in the way of empathy. No, racism affects the ability of mirror neurons to view other people as people.
Some certain atheist philosophers, such as Paul Bloom, have decried empathy as something rather foul and misleading when it comes to morals.
I've actually never heard of this person. Have you, Jamie?
Well,
No, but I would say
So-
that empathy, the idea that empathy is foul or
Yeah.
displeasing for morals.
I actually wouldn't want you to put those words in our mouths because
Let me explain that.
Well, no, I don't want to. That's
well,
not something that I believe.
It's I agree. Well, presumably, I agree with you that that idea is counter to a system of good morals. Well, I'm not entirely sure, because if a moral system is structured entirely on obedience, then whether or not a person feels empathy or sympathy is irrelevant to a moral system based on commands from a god, isn't it?
Empathy convinces a person to care more about the suffering of one little girl trapped in a well than all of the continent of Africa. Because it lets you put a face on it. Because people get involved in these media stories surrounding individuals who have some problem with them, and there are studies about this which confirm
it's interesting to notice the limitations of human sympathy when they're addressed in large concepts like there are people starving and malnourished that don't have access to clean water in Africa. Doesn't resonate with a human being as easily as actually seeing that person suffering. However, again, if your moral system is, I will do whatever God commands, then how you feel would be irrelevant. Whether or not you care about other people would be irrelevant. What would matter is whether or not a God told you to care about another person.
But empathy is also clearly flawed in itself as the basis for a moral system.
I would say flawed is the wrong word. I would say limited.
And that's okay.
Then why is
so
it that people have more empathy for one child starving than two children starving, as demonstrated in experiments with advertising?
They don't. They have more sympathy with suffering that is presented to them in a more visceral way. If you show someone a video of two children suffering, and then you show them a video of one person suffering, which is not what the study that you just described tested, there wouldn't be a reason that they wouldn't favor the two people over one. I'm sorry, I'm not sure where you're coming from with this. Presumably you feel empathy generally, even though it's not a part of your moral system and it wouldn't affect whether or not you feel that it's right to help another person.
Perhaps.
Okay.
Yes, I feel empathy.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, here, I'll let you jump in here.
actually, I want to kind of
Take it
bring
back
this
a bit.
in. Yeah, because we may need to
Yeah, well, I mean,
do a longer show than an hour. 'Cause
Yeah.
we just have so many good callers.
Well, that, and I feel like the long form of our show. Sorry, Hamish, we're getting slightly derailed. We'll get right back to it.
give it just a sec.
The meaning of long form, which I think people understood to mean, oh, they mean they're going to take calls for longer, or oh, they mean their show's going to go on for 5 hours, is that we're going to have longer conversations in segments throughout the week. So it's the repeat callers. So Hamish, even though I know we're going to talk for probably another maybe 10 minutes or something, I can tell you right now we're going to want you to call back in next week as well, because we have so much to talk about.
We do.
But then, assuming that, we can't force you to spend your time talking to us.
Sure.
Well, I can certainly show these studies to you which show that empathy is bizarrely and ludicrously faulty.
So
Yeah, I would say that there's an email address that you can send those studies to, which is mail@talkheathen.com.
That's right.
Well, Sam Harris,
My
you
question
aware of
for you,
him?
Hamish. My question for you right now is, I'm really glad that you're looking into the science. That's a great place to start. What kind of the disconnect for me is how you can look into all of this and yet not take that same critical eye to what you think the answer is, right? You just say, it comes from God, done. And then all of the other studies, well, this says more of this and this says more of that. I think that having this discussion about mirror neurons, having this discussion about cultural and societal norms, that goes so much further into being able to pin down and identify how we behave towards each other as human beings, doesn't it?
Okay, well, what if I empathize more with a robot than a human? Doesn't that reveal empathy to be flawed?
No.
But then, so it's okay for me to care more for a robot than a human?
If your moral system is based on what a God commands, wouldn't it matter only whether God commanded that you care more about a robot than a human?
Well, now you're simply challenging my moral system.
You're correct. I'm just sort of, I'm wondering, the way that you phrased the question demonstrates that you know that there's an aspect of empathy that causes humans to care about humans.
Yes.
Right. Which is why you've said, here's a hypothetical where a person is using empathy to not care about human beings. And the point that you're right, badly trying to demonstrate right now is that you keep coming back to implicitly an idea that human beings should care about human beings.
Well, you agree with that?
Yes, because of the foundation of our moral system.
Well, I'm challenging your moral system while using it.
Yes.
Okay, so...
And I'm saying that in the basis of that, you're understanding that empathy generally works in causing human beings to care about other human beings. And I'm saying that even though that's not always perfect, that's a good basis for a moral system.
Good start.
Yeah.
It's a good piece.
It's not the entirety of it. A moral system that doesn't have a one-word, three-letter answer is complicated.
If you're willing to concede that empathy is highly flawed, then that's fine.
I feel like highly flawed is interesting. I would say that it's not sufficient to create a moral system. But yeah, I can agree with you that a moral system that was just, oh, humans have empathy and that's all they need would be highly flawed. But that would
My empathy might tell me to care more about my cat than about 500 children in Africa. Empathy is by no means perfect.
No.
I agree with you. Empathy is by no means perfect.
Highly flawed.
I would say that the ability of a human being to innately feel empathy, particularly in our interconnected world today, is not a sufficient basis for a moral system.
Because it's highly flawed.
Again, the only reason that I'm not using that specific phrase is that I think you're using it to mean something that isn't what I'm agreeing with.
It's far from a perfect basis.
I agree that it is far from a perfect basis. If that's what you mean, then I agree with that statement.
And you're implying, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
You're implying that your answer is perfect, right?
Mm-hmm.
God is perfect by definition.
That's exactly what you say. That's cool.
Isn't that highly flawed, given that two human beings can entirely disagree about it and decide to kill each other over it?
Well, I'm perfectly happy to answer that. But first, I would like you to admit that empathy is highly flawed.
I have agreed with the idea that you've summarized. I'm not sure what part of the idea you've tried to communicate that I haven't agreed with.
I mean, okay, it's not perfect, right? We said it's a block. So what? Okay, I admit that empathy, as far as mirror neurons are concerned, don't wrap everything up in a bow. Fantastic.
If you want to say,
so what?
Look, if you want to argue that your morality requires many ingredients, of which empathy is merely one, that's fine.
Yes.
You must admit that empathy alone is highly flawed.
Who said that it wasn't?
Yeah.
You haven't been answering this question.
Okay, so the problem is with the phrasing, because what you're saying in the first sentence is a moral system based on empathy alone is flawed, or right, is insufficient, is bad. I forget which word that is. Therefore, empathy is flawed. Those are two separate things. It's very much like saying a car alone isn't sufficient to take you on a road trip. Therefore,
Well,
cars aren't helpful in road trips. They are. You just also need snacks and a change of clothes and a destination and a plan.
It's not that moral systems based on empathy alone are flawed, therefore empathy is flawed. It's empathy is flawed, therefore moral systems based on empathy alone are flawed.
Yes, and I don't agree necessarily on that, right? In the same way that a person trying to take a road trip with a car can take a wrong turn and get lost, that doesn't mean that the car is flawed. The way that a human being can use a car can lead to problems and what we would agree is immoral acts.
And I mean, if we're
Not only sociopaths that do things that are bad, right? People who do feel empathy generally can also be made or find themselves committing genocide. Not to,
Hitler had little
dark
empathy
tone
for the Jews.
immediately.
Go ahead, Hamish.
Sorry.
Suppose you are in a hospital and your daughter is injured and you have the choice of either making the doctor treat her immediately or allowing 500 people to get treated immediately. Your empathy might tell you to save your daughter, but moral reasoning may tell you the 500 people are more important.
So here's my question to you. How does your view on morality inform your decision that is different from the way we would look at that? What is so different from your version of morality that it would come up with a completely different answer? I mean, walk me through that.
I could answer that, but I feel like you're dodging the question.
We've answered the question that you've asked
No, it's your turn,
I
Mike.
think, three different ways.
Look,
Yes, empathy is not sufficient. Yes, the use of only empathy does not provide you with a sufficient moral system to go about your life making moral decisions.
Just because it's
Your hypothetical demonstrates a situation that requires more than empathy alone.
Exactly.
And just because it's not exactly the answer that you want in a soundbite doesn't mean we didn't answer it. So the question is, how does your morality inform you in a way that's different from the way that we would make a moral judgment? How would you stand in that hospital and make that decision? Because why?
Because I am not using empathy, but rather the Lord as a basis for my ethics.
How are you using the Lord?
He is my guide and my shepherd.
How does he guide you? By what method do you determine what his guidance is telling you what to do?
We have the Bible. We have the scripture.
Okay, so presumably you read the Bible and then determine what that says about a decision in a hospital about choosing between your daughter and 500 sick people, or 500 people that need treatment.
In perhaps a less direct way, indeed.
All right. Is there a way that the Bible informs that decision? Because I would actually be very interested in doing that. I know that you, as you've said earlier in this call, that you don't have your Bible with you. But again, because we're going to end up revisiting some of these questions next week, it would be interesting to hear a more substantial answer to that question. I didn't want to put you on the spot if you can't give a perfect moral answer to this moral dilemma now.
Well, if I have my daughter tied to a rail track, and there are also 500 strangers tied to a rail track, and I have to choose between one and the other. That is a decision which I am deeply uncomfortable answering at present.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like, what I wanted to emphasize was that I'm not trying to get a gotcha moment in that you don't have the entire Bible memorized to use this, which is why I was saying that would be a good question to have an answer for next week.
I understand that. Now let me turn this on you. So is it better?
Hold on, I think Eric had a point.
And just so you know, we're coming up on the end of things, so we are going to need to move this conversation into next week if you call.
Yeah. Hamish, are you able to call back next week?
I believe so.
Yeah. Okay. Right. And then do you have the email that we said at that point to have, brief sort of communications in between now and then?
You want to give me an email? Yeah,
so that we can keep in touch in the lead up to next week's call.
I gave my email to the call screener.
Perfect.
All right. Well, then we'll reach out to you.
And thank you for calling in, Hamish. And
Very well.
we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Oh, that was good. See, that's why.
Yeah, sorry.
I love
yeah,
that.
I took up a lot of. I know that you are much more excited to talk to him than I was.
No, just listening. I love it. We're gonna have more opportunities.
It's gonna be good.
What really.
And Hamish, if you are still watching, thank you for calling in.
Yeah.
We do appreciate your time.
And Hamish, what really gets me is that there are a lot of people who can justify poor decisions by saying that they read it in the Bible.
Well, we shouldn't.
The fact is that it's,
argue too much after he's hung up. I know that I took up so much of that time.
Yeah,
that you
that's
wanted
true.
to-
That's true. That's
Yeah,
true.
sorry, I'll let you.
I'll
first and last
talk
episode.
about post hoc rationalizations afterward, or on the next show.
That sounds like a reason that you just came up with on the fly to justify your decisions. Sorry.
almost like a post hoc rationalization.
Yeah, almost like you came up with the reason after that.
So I actually, before we do anything else, because we are running low on time, I do want to get a couple thank yous out there. Can we do that really quick?
Yes, of course.
Okay. So the first person that I really want to thank are mods in general, not just our official Facebook group mods, but there are lots of groups of people who watch the Atheist Experience that have been impacted by our show. And there are so many people that have kind of picked up that weight and have really been carrying us through it. And we didn't ask your permission, and we really appreciate everything that you've put into it. Thank you so much. We're going to try and find a better long-term solution, but in the meantime, we understand that it's impacting what you're doing, and we really appreciate it.
To be clear, you're thanking the moderators of the Atheist Experience official discussion group for the extra
work, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
And
I just
also,
wanted to make that clear.
yeah,
Thanks,
no,
guys.
absolutely. For
Yeah.
you guys explicitly,
Yeah.
thank you.
And not just the ones we've met personally. You guys are all really great, and you've helped us a lot to push the show.
You have.
I know that he just said that,
But there are lots of groups that I'm discovering that are just kind of really cool little niches of people who watch it that also have been impacted. So thank you to you guys too. I don't know who you are, but I know you're there. Other than that, I want to thank Aaron from the Waiting for Wrath podcast. Aaron, thank you so much for helping us on the back end with the website. I really look forward to us working with you in the next couple of weeks to get us going for the podcast, or to get this audio released as a podcast. We really appreciate that, people.
And also, I want to, sorry, let me.
Go for it.
I am also thankful for things, even though he has the list right now. Pio, who did a bunch of graphic designing and actually put together an intro for us that
It looks pretty cool.
It's super
looks really
awesome.
cool.
Yeah. It's fantastic. I know that Tracy Harris, thank you as well, mentioning us on the Atheist Experience has been a big push for people knowing that we exist. But thank you to that, and to everyone that has been supportive. And all right,
we're getting a little.
Yeah, we're getting a little nudge from the
Okay,
from the booth.
so we.
That is why we both just sort of fell silent and stared at the camera.
Had a voice in our ear. So Aaron, thank you. Pio, thank you. Andreas, you know who you are. Thank you. Facebook mods, thank you. Phil, who did the art, you're awesome.
Yeah.
And if we haven't mentioned you, you're.
That's a failing of us,
Yeah.
and not because your contributions haven't made this show what it is already.
Yeah. So we have 1 minute left, but we do want to talk to some callers. So do we want to take them off air, or do we want
Well,
to
let's
go over?
take John and then Josh. I mean, these are I know that Josh's conversation is probably going to need more time. Generally, we can take it over the course of multiple shows.
Sure.
So let's go ahead and take John, I think.
Okay, and Josh, stay on the line, and
We'll get to you.
Yeah, we'll catch you after the show. Yeah.
Well, at the end, we can give it a few minutes.
All right.
All right, John, you're on the air with.
Hey
Eric
guys,
and
how you
Jamie.
doing?
Doing good. Thank you for waiting for so
Marvelous.
long.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think maybe what I wanted to say might be a little long, but I can do it like a very quick kind of just, this is what I was getting at thing, if you like. Basically, even once I kind of abandoned religion, I called myself spiritual agnostic or something crazy when I was a teenager.
You were the only one that ever did that. Yeah, everyone else just, none of this makes any sense.
Petered in Buddhism for a while. Buddhist turned atheist, right? No, but so basically I had an experience that kind of colored my perception and kept me in that sort of spiritual thing. And it's a really long story. Basically, a number of coincidences happened in a short time. And my point was, religious people use these kinds of stories, these highly coincidental stories, to kind of say, look, this is how I can show you. Like, this can't just be coincidence. And the thing is, most of us have similar experiences, but we know it's coincidence. That's, I think, the big difference. That's kind of what I wanted to touch on, was just that I think we're so much the same, even with our religious counterparts. They just view it in a way that is, in my opinion, obviously kind of irrational and unnecessary.
Yeah, God-colored glasses.
They are still humans, even if they're wrong.
Well, yes, exactly. And it shows how easily we can be wrong. It's just a specific thing. Maybe we're less wrong now.
But that doesn't mean that we don't have a long way to go. We got one thing right. Now we have the rest of the world.
Yeah, there's far too much like, oh, I'm not a theist anymore. Haha, I know everything now. Like, okay.
Please don't be that person. If you're a fan and you're that person, stop being that.
It's like you're saying that, but you're here at a booth trying to sell me healing crystals. So we've got some conversation to have.
I've always liked what Matt Dillahunty says, where he says, I didn't become smarter when I lost religion, right? I just became more well-informed, and it altered my perception, basically. So I agree with that completely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's not true for me. I definitely became twice as smart.
I'm sure.
Yeah, he thinks so.
I believe you.
No, I don't. How could I possibly get any smarter?
Nice.
John, I'm sorry that we didn't have a lot of time to talk to you, man.
I called in a little late. So
actually, here, it's perfect. We've teased that you have a fantastic story, and you're welcome to call back next week and fulfill the cliffhanger. First cliffhanger of Talk Heathen. First.
What happened?
Call you guys next week then, okay?
All right,
sounds good. You take care, my man.
Thanks for calling in.
All right, thanks for everything you guys do. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
I don't know what this is. I've done this.
We're signing off.
It's it's a hat. No, I don't know.
Josh from Atlanta, you are on the air with Eric and Jamie. How's it going, my man?
Hey guys, how's it going?
We're doing all right. Just
marvelous.
Good deal.
I'm riding that Hamish still, man. It just feels good.
Funny is that could also be because hashish is the name of a drug. So you'd be like, oh, here's some Hamish.
Oh man, if only.
They have the same effect almost. All right. No.
What's up?
Anyway, I was just gonna. I wanted to call in to give you a real quick deal here. I've been an atheist for about 3 years, and I've got a 5-year-old daughter and actually our stories are a lot alike. A lot checked out of it. So, but I got a 5-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old daughter, and my 5-year-old is in kindergarten, and she was really upset this week when she found out that next year she was going to be in first grade, and she would no longer have her teacher or her classroom or anything like that, and maybe even a different school entirely. And she was really disappointed. And I started talking to her about, well, hey, things are finite, and this is going to end, but we appreciate it and love it the way it is. And just because this ends doesn't mean first grade won't be amazing, and you won't love your teacher there, and you could be even more fun, and that sort of thing. And then suddenly I realized I was talking to her about basically, changes of state, where she moves from, one state to the next, and maybe the next is better, and I was leaving the door wide open for the afterlife.
Yeah. I would say that first it's important to as much as I'm going to sound like a self-help book, it's important to validate the feelings that your daughter has.
Oh yeah. Sure.
So I'm worried, or like I'm disappointed and upset because I won't have the same teacher, the same friends, or be in the same situation next year that I am in this year. I entirely understand that. Like as a child, I never moved. I lived in the same room for the first 18 years of my life, and actually I slept in the same bed for like the first 17 and a half of them, and even when I was taller than my bed, it was still the same. So the change of state being something that's weird and uncomfortable and frightening, I entirely understand that, even as a 25-year-old.
Right.
And when it comes to broaching the topic of death, you said your daughters were how old?
5 and 4.
Well, they're 5 and 4, and
Okay.
admittedly, this is not something that's really a topic as much as like I'm trying to be a proactive parent and thinking, okay, well, when I have this conversation eventually, when a beloved pet dies, and even then it's a change of state. But I started thinking about it, when talking about their own death.
Yeah.
It started me thinking about what I don't even know how to have a conversation as an atheist. Or what I guess my question is like, how do you guys? What is your perspective, and what have you heard, or people I could look into that we've talked on the topic about? Life is a state from one thing to the next, but then when we're talking about death, it's the end of state, and dealing with that concept here, I
want to tackle this in two parts. The first part is child development, right? It's good that you have this thought already bubbling up. How am I going to deal with it? It just means you're a good parent, man, and that's all right. One of the worst things a parent is going to have to do, one of the worst things that you're going to have to go through, is watching them grieve. It hurts. It hurts so bad. And what so many people want to do is come up with oh, no, you'll see that puppy again, right? And you sell them that false hope. And I think that in the long run, that's one huge piece of baggage that they won't have to, deal with, that most other people do. That's something you can definitely take comfort in. And the other is that, I'm sorry, I got off the child development thing. I know you've got something, but for child development, 7 years old is a good time. Most schools will be talking and bring those kinds of subjects will be brought up in books that they'll be reading in class, and that's a really good time to bring it up. It's gonna happen naturally, and it's for a lot of that, especially at their age, they're gonna look at you to model for them how important that it is, right? So if you make it a sit down, we're gonna talk about death, right? Versus, this is what happens. This is a matter of course. That can really help kind of help your daughters be able to navigate that later on when they look at it and they don't give it this huge amount of weight.
Yeah. I would say don't try and underplay it too much, right? Like
no, but
yeah. Well, I mean, like obviously, like don't bring in a clown who's juggling and like whatever. Yeah.
The death clown. Oh man, I want to see that fan art. Okay.
There's a book by Stephen King I can read.
Oh.
Okay, but you had...
So a couple of things. One, I would just to piggyback a little bit on lots of people want to say, oh no, you'll see that puppy again, or like, oh no, it's the response of, it's not that bad, is very human. You see a person that you care about in pain, and you want them to not feel that pain, and they wouldn't feel that pain if it wasn't as bad. So it's not that bad, but it is. It is bad, and saying it's not is a kind of denial, which is something that humans are very, very, very good at. I know, not because I've ever done it. I deny ever having used denial to deal with things.
That's going to be a meme, you know that? It's going to say Jamie in a kind of denial. This has come up more than once.
Jamie is a kind of denial. No. And the statement about that is denial works until it doesn't, and then it all comes crashing down in a bigger way. But I have one, there's lots of secular parenting books. There's fewer secular parenting books than there are other kinds of parenting books because our society is the way it is. But there are a couple of those. But I would recommend, I'm not sure if your kids have a favorite children's book series. There's a book series called, I think, Elephant and Piggy, something like that. One of those books is called We're in a Book or something. Why did I not Google that?
We're in a book.
Eric, yeah. And the two main characters realize that they are in a book and that book will end. And that when the book ends, the story that they're telling will end. Yeah. And so it's Elephant, I think, is worried about this. And he goes, oh no, like I'm gonna disappear. And then the next page, Piggy's there alone. He's like, I wonder where he went. And then the next page, Elephant is back. There's only 36 more pages. What am I gonna do? It's like, Elephant, calm down. And then the next page is like, now there's only 35. And Piggy talks him through, like, well, look, we've got 35 more pages, and every book has an ending, and that doesn't mean that it can't be one that's, positive and full of laughter and joy. Obviously, he doesn't say, you can live a good book life with whatever, but the concept of, just because the party is going to end doesn't mean that you shouldn't blow out the candles, make a wish, dance, blow whatever those annoying party things are, use a kazoo.
Yeah. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Does that help? Does that help give you a start? There are
the book recommendation is really good. It gives a good perspective. I think, I don't remember, Eric, did you have a second thing that you were going to say? I forget. But for me, part of it too was branching off of the kids was almost a philosophical question in terms of how you guys handle the discussions with people who have a fear of the end. Even at an adult level. I'm not talking necessarily to the kids. It just got me thinking in terms of, I've never thought of, I've only been atheist for 3 years. It's not like I've had any of those conversations.
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is that is way too big of a topic for us to be able to
next week
reasonably
exists.
answer for you. We suggest I take a look at some secular communities because I think that ties in with community.
There's also organizations as well.
There are organizations. Recovering from Religion is one of them. There's
Grief Beyond Belief.
Yeah.
Is also one that deals specifically with that as a question.
When it comes to fear of death, dude, it sucks.
Well,
but
I'll put the caveat that it's not. I'm not worried about it. It's more of like I just wanted to find better ways to talk about it with other people and more fit into my own conversations with my family and my daughters and stuff like that. So
yeah. My problem is that I've only been in. Well, here we're over time. Josh, are you comfortable calling back next week if you want? Or actually, if you wanted to get in touch with us in between now and next week, there's an email address.
mail@talktoon.com.
How did you know? Psychics are real, I believe.
And
there's also a Facebook page. You can find us on Facebook at Talk Heathen.
Who'd have guessed, right? We actually have our own website.
Psychics would have guessed because they're magic.
We're gonna let you go, man. But feel free to call in anytime. And it's a really interesting topic to go into. That it means that you got to look at a lot of pain and healing, and most people generally don't like doing that, but it is something that
it's easier just to deny that it exists.
But when you get into it, it's worth having. It's worth that discussion. It's worth that thought. So I'm glad that you're getting into it. And please feel free to call back.
All right, guys. I appreciate taking the time.
Thanks for calling in, Josh.
All right. I think that's our show.
Yeah, we're a whole 15 minutes overtime, which I know is more than I told you I would let us go over. But thank you to everyone we've already thanked. Again, an extra one.
And we want to be very, very clear. These thank yous are people who've been helping us in the past week. We ultimately thank the people in production. We want to thank Mark. We want to thank Vern. We want to thank Vern for being here. We want to say thank you so much, you guys. Thank you for coming in early on a Sunday to come and do this and keeping this going, keeping us going. We wouldn't be here without you. And we're just going to say that forever. That always counts. And we're going to have an outro that has your names on it. I want you to know that we love you guys.
Yeah. That, and I would say not to forget the Kickstarter.
For the girls, the Smith girls.
Help the Smith Girls is not just the name of the Kickstarter, it's a plea.
Yeah, it's super important. And please, please, please donate if you can. Share that. If you remember us, share us too, but help the Smith Girls. Like and subscribe to our show. Definitely pass it on to people that you think would like it. And we will
Or people that you think would call us and want to disagree.
Yeah, more Hamishes. So, what's our closing line?
We don't hate you, we just think you're wrong.
We just think you're wrong.